the GLP-1s, they may seem like a quick way to get there, and they are a quicker way to lose weight and balance blood sugar, as you mentioned. But like you said, at what cost? And so we're actually backing up the efficiency, the efficacy, we would say, of their health in general. What kind of repair are we going to have to do down the road?
Yeah, I think that speaks well to what's the priority here. It could be weight loss. It could be the thing that at all costs.
Welcome to Mother Nature's Doctor, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets modern wellness. Hosted by Dr. April Schulte, a specialist in Chinese medicine, this show explores the power of nature as the ultimate healer. Each week, Dr. Schulte dives into a new health topic, revealing how holistic practices, herbal medicine, and time-tested natural remedies can help you live a healthier, more balanced life. Get ready to nourish your body, calm your mind, and reconnect with the wisdom of Mother Nature.
Welcome to this episode of the Mother Nature's Doctor podcast. My name is Dr. April Schulte, and I am so excited to have my guest today, Dr. Chris Lepisto. I should actually say Christopher Lepisto.
Oh, thank you.
I've known you for a while now.
You've known me back when I used Chris.
That's right. We've been professionally working together, I would say, for coming up on 21 years.
Yes, and in the same building even. Well, actually, we were plotting being in the same integrated medicine center, which didn't come to fruition. Never actually practiced together, did we?
No, we actually never did, but we certainly have shared plenty of clients.
Lots of collaboration, for sure.
And would like to explain that you are a 2002 graduate of Bastyr University, and you've been in practice now for 23 years. As a naturopath, Dr. Lepisto is dedicated to providing personalized health care that addresses the root cause of illness, combining modern science with natural healing practices. He believes in and utilizes the principles of nature's cure, an organic and whole foods diet, plenty of fresh, clean water and sunlight, physical medicines, and the healing power of plants. As an outdoor enthusiast, Dr. Lepisto has a passion for men's health and well-being. I will definitely include your contact information here at the end of the podcast for our listeners to find. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, April. I really appreciate it.
You know what else I was remembering about us? I once was maybe once or twice a guest on your radio show that you had back.
Oh, yeah, Medicinal Roots. So at KAFM, our local community radio station, I did was it every week? It feels so long ago. And it sat down, and I don't remember what we talked about, but I bet it was fun.
I'm sure it was great. Today, we are talking about an up-and-coming topic that certainly is grasping the world. I've noticed for me as a clinician, and I'm certain you've noticed it too, that the number of people utilizing the GLP-1 class of medications for weight loss and other things is becoming more and more prevalent.
Yes.
I'm curious, how's it showing up in your practice, the GLP-1 use, and what is your experience with your clients so far?
Yesterday, discovery call, a woman is wanting peptide therapy. I just had a sense it was GLP-1s, and she wanted the injectables, and so she was calling to set up an appointment. It's not something I provide as a naturopathic doctor. I don't do the injectable peptides, but I have access to the oral, and I can send them to people if they really want to get the injectables. But I have started to use them, I'll just be honest, very reluctantly. And here's my first red flag. There's such a buzz about them. I just start there. Now, it doesn't mean there isn't efficacy. But when you start hearing like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever, it just gives me a note of caution. That's all. And as we'll get to, there should be caution around the use of these peptides. It depends. I do want to say one thing. That depends if we're talking about synthetics, pharmaceuticals, such as GLP-1, tirzepatide, or the semaglutide. Those ones, prescription only, have black box warnings, as in permanently altering or disabling or fatal events associated with them. That's very different than oral peptides.
Can I stop you there and have you explain first what is a peptide
You bet.
when it comes to the GLP-1s, and then to further differentiate a pharmaceutical grade versus something else?
Absolutely. Great place to start. Our bodies make GLP-1. As a peptide, it's a short chain branch of amino acids, a chain of short, let me say that one more
I
time.
have to cough.
You have to call that to say it again.
That works out. That worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
All right.
Short chains of amino acids, we're talking about building blocks of proteins that have physiological effects in the body. So, for example, the stomach has cells that make GLP-1. That's involved in appetite regulation, in metabolism, and other effects about weight control, for example, and naturally occurring. Okay, your body is making these. When we talk about injectable, pharmaceutical grade GLP-1s, a very different category, different potency and strength. And so coming with more concerns.
So one thing I'm noticing in my clinic, and hearing a lot of hearsay stories as well, that my view, just to sort of simplify it and take out the scientific part of the GLP-1s, when I'm feeling with a client that maybe a GLP-1 isn't their best option, which is maybe all of the time. I was trying to think, is there a time I would actually recommend a GLP-1? I think I might, in the most extreme of circumstances, possibly. But I consider they actually paralyze the GI tract. And I know that's saying it very strongly.
Sure.
But that is what indeed happens. It really slows down the GI tract. And with that comes a lot of side effects.
One thing I want to chime in on immediately is I really do understand why people are so interested in and are utilizing them. And I'll use a personal example. A friend of mine has lost 60 pounds and says he feels fantastic. Now, I asked him immediately, are you losing muscle mass? He's like, yeah, I think so. But there's this huge appeal immediately. If the goal is weight loss, they work. You get dramatic blood sugar regulation changes and dramatic weight loss, okay? At what cost? Always. One of them is muscle mass. But he has been using it for, I think, over 12 months now. It's also cut back on his drinking dramatically. Now we're part of his story of why he had weight gain. And his cravings, to be honest, he just gets sick when he drinks alcohol more than a single one. And that is, very, very potent regulation. I'm not saying that's the ideal method. It's a bit like, do we respond to carrots versus stick, right? Typically humans, we respond to carrots and incentive, not I feel terrible every time I drink and take this, but it does work. Okay.
Right.
So he's just one example. Numbers of my patients are inquiring. What ends up happening pretty quickly, and I believe this is very common between the medicines we practice, is we're getting down to underlying cause of weight dysregulation. Well, number one, is there weight dysregulation? Or are we talking about things like body dysmorphia and their approach? I think I'm so overweight, and actually there's the physical evidence that they're not. That's one. But the other one is that 10 people who genuinely need weight loss for health have 10 different reasons they need it and 10 different causes for the weight gain.
Absolutely. When I see a client from a Chinese medicine standpoint, we are very big on something we call pattern differentiation. So I could have 10 different clients show up, and let's say their chief complaints are maybe weight around the middle, acid reflux, and depression. Okay, let's say they all have those complaints. I will give them 10 different treatment plans based on how they're presenting.
Sure.
Keeping in mind, of course, that and my listeners certainly know this about me by now, that certainly our emotions cannot be teased apart from our physical health. And by physical health, I certainly do mean our hormones, our endocrine system, our nervous system, our immune system, even our spiritual awareness. All of that comes together. And when we're thinking about something as complicated as weight management, and especially in today's world, which of course is complicated too by environmental factors.
Sure.
It's complicated by the toxins in our food and our food supply, it is hard to tease it apart. It is hard to tease it apart. And even if we are not trying to balance our blood sugar or we're not trying to lose weight, just maintaining a healthy picture for us is a full-time job.
Absolutely.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
And so the GLP-1s, they may seem like a quick way to get there, and they are a quicker way to lose weight and balance blood sugar, as you mentioned. But like you said, at what cost? And so we're actually backing up the efficiency, the efficacy, we would say, of their health in general. What kind of repair are we going to have to do down the road?
Yeah. I think that speaks well to what's the priority here. It could be weight loss. It could be the thing that at all costs. Literally, if someone determines I'm just not a good fit for them, if that's what they're determining. But the bigger picture, this is where I'm sure we have in common. We're identifying and treating the causes of their imbalance. We're treating the person. We're not treating their weight gain. We're not treating obesity. We're treating this person that has this effect, and there's a bigger picture going on.
I have a current client. I'm just loving working with this woman. She has been historically on a GLP-1, and she actually came to me for help with thyroid regulation. But it became very obvious to me that her earth element was suffering, and her earth element is her digestive system. And when we kind of break that down for her, we can see past traumas, past relationship issues really play a role in that. And she was actually unable to get proper nutrients absorbed because of the GLP-1. So her health was only going backward. And for her, actually, the weight loss actually stopped. And so it became also not efficient in her losing weight. And she has been so brave. It takes a lot of bravery and a lot of courage to say, you know what, I'm going to look my health, mentally, emotionally, physically, like stare it right in the face and get right in there and like get into that nitty gritty. And it takes a lot of courage. And for those people who are willing to do it, I have more hope for them than anyone, because I know they're going to make it. They are going to rise from those ashes. And that's where our job, at least I feel like this, I'm curious if you feel like it. Sometimes I'm there to be a cheerleader too. Like, hey, this is our path forward. I know this doesn't feel good. I know it's scary. I know you already gained 8 pounds back since stopping the GLP-1. But friendly reminders, this is how we're going to rebuild your digestive system.
I like how you put that, where you're identifying this, I would call it an emotional piece to this woman's health, and really saying, hey, I'm right there with you. I can relate. This is the hardest work we do, I think, is emotional work. The term I would use is issues in the tissues. When there's a primarily emotional effect on, it's my classic target patients. It's the guy in his 50 with reflux. Now he's having to take the proton pump inhibitors or the H2 blockers every day, and it's just advancing, and his joint pains, he's like, I just can't do another cortisone injection. There must be another way. And sure enough, it's his job eating him up, or it's his marriage. As the fellow I'm thinking of recently, I actually didn't catch it until he did. And I was like, oh gosh, I was saying things like, well, it looks like we have a primarily physical issue here. And he came back and he's like, I think I got to look at my marriage. Like that's where we went. Yeah. So what I'm hoping to do is help people connect to their own experience. And it is a hard road to face when you've got biohacking and the latest and the greatest, and the circles of people are talking about it, and the Hollywood stars, and look how great they look. And I get that appeal, but again, we're talking about like from what perspective. It looks very appealing initially. So these bigger resets take work. I'm actually thinking of a guy who was in my office today. Sometimes it's just timing. Chatting on the phone, he's not interested in GLP-1s, nor does he need it, but he has severe gout, and he's drank alcohol since age 18. And I'm on the phone going, look, we got to look at that. I don't know how much that's the issue, but by the end of the visit today, I'm like, this is a nutritional issue. This is your choices. And he's like, I'll do it. And he just surprised me, because our chat on the phone, he's arms crossed. I can see it. We're on the phone. I could see him. He's like, I drank since I'm 18. The other doctors have told me this. I just want to let you know. Right? You hear where I'm going with this.
I do.
And yet here he is bravely. He's like, I'll do it. Because why? He's suffering, and he gets it. And and he wants to get better, and he's unusual in that we are clearly having a good connection right from the first visit. He'll do what I ask, and I'm like, you get in there, you do everything you already know, and it's no alcohol right now, right? And then we'll see. But that hard work, that's what I hear you
Hard
talking
work.
about.
And a lot of times we do sort of have to be suffering that much to be willing to do it. And the body, you know, it knocks subtly on the subtly? Subtly. It knocks subtly on the door at first, like, hey, you might want to pay attention. The stress in your life, it's actually making you tired, and you're gonna start getting back pain. And that's why actually my back does hurt. And pay attention to that. And if we don't, then, well, now you have a herniated disc. And then if you don't listen to that, now you've got a spinal fusion. If you don't listen to that, you get another spinal fusion. And so the body does keep knocking, and it will knock louder and louder until we listen. And I was recently listening to one of my favorite podcasts right now. It's called Next Level Soul. And the host of that show, Alex, put it very well. He said the worst place to be a lot of times is in the middle. Meaning you're not too uncomfortable, but you're just, you're sort of uncomfortable, you're sort of comfortable. It's not enough to leave the job, leave the marriage, step into your passion, find the joy, do the hard work. And so it's not until the gout is that bad that we're like, okay, maybe I'm going to be looking at the drinking and why I'm drinking that much.
Well said. I don't think I'm going to shock anyone by saying that's a typical male pattern. I don't need your help. I'm not bad enough. That's why my target patient's in his 50s or older. But I love it when the 30-something-year-old comes in who's already got reflux issues, who's already got, not gout at that age, but certain patterns that could easily lead to these later, and he's ready. But that's less common. And so sometimes we need a certain amount of life experience.
What evidence-based alternatives can you think of that might, for that person, maybe they've been thinking about the GLP-1s, or maybe they've started it and they thought, oh man, I think maybe I've made a mistake. What are some sort of cushions that we can provide these people?
Sure. I think this is a great place to go back to the body's making GLP-1. How does it do that? It utilizes butyrate, which is a fatty acid that's fermented from fiber. So what is their fiber intake, right? We're talking about fruits and vegetables and grains and what is fitting for the person, so that you have not necessarily the African tribes with 150 grams a day. Most Americans, it's around 13 or 15 grams, I forget, where you're like, it's just, we talk about poop in my practice. I'm sure you do too. It's like,
all the time.
Hooray, we have one poop a day, where it's like they're pooping after every meal in the healthiest of cultures is a common phenomenon. But you have to have that amount of fiber to have that to occur. Now, that's not what we have to do in America. That's fairly unrealistic, but getting the fiber content up if it's low is a great place to start. Helping the body to ferment these fibers naturally and create butyrate that will create GLP-1 signals. That's all part of where it starts. What are we talking about? Nutrition and diet.
I can almost hear my audience saying to themselves, here she goes. She's going to launch into sweet cravings and the earth element and digestion.
Well,
again.
better do it then.
And that's because the sweet flavor from a Chinese medicine perspective actually nourishes the earth energy, the digestive system. And a lot of those fiber-based foods you mentioned are considered sweet. And we get confused in our society where we think when we're craving something sweet, we might think that means something like a Snickers bar or cookies, or maybe the worst I can think of, like artificial sweeteners that are out there that are nothing but pure poison. That we think, we get confused. Okay, that's what I need. That's what I'm asking for. But when you're actually craving the sweet flavor, maybe consider that could mean complex carbohydrates, things like rice, sweet potatoes, root vegetables, and then some of the foods you mentioned as well. And then again, along with the earth element, the emotion that actually drains the digestive system, the earth element the most, is worry. So a lot of us are overthinking, we're worrying a lot, and certainly that's something to consider alongside what I always preach about, self-compassion and self-love.
Yes.
So we're coming full circle to that.
Well, there you get it. It didn't sound too much like a tirade about sweets again.
I guess.
So, yeah, you're touching on things that I imagine you end up circling back to often, that you can see patterns. I mean, certainly, I would even suggest the pattern of GLP-1 interest and peptide interest matches these people who feel amount of, I got to do something about this, and then there's just a huge buzz about it. They're not to be dismissed. I do want to say there's a genuine difference between pharmaceutical grade peptides and all their black box warnings. The entire seminar I listened to on semaglutide alone, it's a dangerous tool, but also some of the injectables like the BPC 157 has great efficacy demonstrated on some of the injection for joint pain, chronic arthritis, etc. There may be a place for some of these. There are different categories. Oral peptides, you might disagree with me.
No, actually, I was going to ask you about BPC 157 after this podcast.
Oh, really?
Because I've been really interested in that. And I was wondering your opinion on them since you brought it up. So let's go.
Well, whether or not it gets included. So as far as I can tell, and I'm not a peptide expert, literally, I've had to get up to speed because there's so much interest in my patients. But there is great efficacy demonstrated on the injectable forms. Here's a couple things I've helped people navigate. True stories from Grand Junction.
Love it. Let's dive in.
Sounds
That
like
would be a really good podcast.
Tales from the Dark Side or something. Once upon a time in Grand Junction, Colorado. So one of my patients said, oh, I was able to obtain a subcutaneous BPC 157, and I literally compared it. It was like 1/20th the potency of the true injectables, like the intravenous, for example, where you can give a much higher dose. There's all kinds of things out there that they're advertising are the same, and you're going to know this. We have a problem with quality and product in our product industry of natural supplements. But sometimes we're not comparing apples to apples. But I'm saying BPC 157 has efficacy on the intravenous injectables and like greater dosages, if you will, for osteoarthritis. They're a real consideration. I don't have access to those as a naturopath in Grand Junction. It's also not really my style of, I would call them more higher force interventions. But you certainly have plenty of access to them in Grand Junction, and I can help somebody find the right provider if that's what we determine they need. To be fair, I haven't done that yet, because what's happening is we're getting busy with, this is osteoarthritis, and there's a lot we can do before we get to these, and it costs a lot less. Some of that is the harder work of changing your nutrition, or here's another one that I'm starting to incorporate more, food intolerances that can explain long-standing inflammatory conditions. Hey, here's a food we haven't looked at yet that's actually you're eating it all the time, and it's part of the problem. So I'm working on these fundamental resets, but I'm saying there can be a place for some of these higher force interventions.
There can be a place for lots of them, and it's good to have lots of these things in our back pocket if we need them. Circling back once again to the sweet craving, and I think something like Americans eat 17 to 22 teaspoons of sugar a day or something like that.
Is that right? Oh my goodness.
So imagine just getting out your bowl, your container of sugar and just scooping out that sugar and just eating it straight in. I remember when I was a kid, I used to put sugar on my cereal and then that sugar would fall to the bottom. That was, of course, the best part.
Oh, the crunchies at the bottom.
The crunchies at the bottom. Imagine those 17 to 22 teaspoons a day. And it's because people don't realize it's hiding in your food that you're eating from the grocery store, from the restaurant. And just having that awareness and then being able to tie it to, okay, maybe I'm gaining weight or maybe my insulin resistance or my blood sugar dysregulation is in part due to my diet. And am I willing to consider I am worth it enough to make different choices throughout the day with my food? And a lot of people, we don't know what we don't know. And so I'm always grateful that I'm interested in health and food. I often think about one thing I'm not interested in, automobiles. So do I want mine to work? Like a charm. Every time, I don't want a single problem with it, but I don't want to learn about it. I don't want to figure out how it works, especially nowadays and how all the electrical circuits. But I am grateful there are people out there who love to learn how it works so I can take my vehicle to them. But when it comes to our health, I'm hoping to inspire, I am going to develop an interest in my own health picture and really take some time to look at that because that's where opportunities to really grow and enjoy life to its fullest truly come from. We're like, hey, Why am I craving sugar because I'm tired? Am I lacking self-love? Did I not get, did I not feel appreciated by my work? What is it? And then when we identify it, that's how we're able to make different choices. When we take something like these higher force interventions, as you call them, which I like that term, it kind of robs the opportunity. It takes the power of our health out of our hands as patients, as people.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I'm just thinking of the word, it's almost a bypass. Like you don't have to do all the hard work. That's the invitation. I also just want to acknowledge, I imagine you're great at helping meet people where they're at when they've got these patterns like, the sugar every day sort of a thing. I would suggest there's a genuine grief process whenever we have to change
Great
patterns.
point.
And it's just, that's where it's so relatable how hard it can be if it's just been this way for a while. I'll use myself as an example because I definitely have a sweet tooth, but I don't have some kind of perfect diet, but I've gotten to the point at which I will distinctly notice the corn syrup in a cheap margarita, and I'll just hurt the next day. That now those were my Ben and Jerry signals, as I call them, kicking in every reason that you have something sweet besides the nutritional need. And I was like, I'm having that margarita. But if this is about the body wisdom, the body keeps the score, as is said, and we can tell once we start sorting out these signals. Hey, wow, I can really feel that made a difference, right? So, okay, I bounced around just a touch, but there's a genuine grief process. We have to feel and deal. It's not going to be that same way anymore. Sometimes it's that bad. They have to make the change, but also I can, it just feels so empowering to me to witness someone who's just like, I just can't, I just don't want to do it that way anymore. I don't have to change it, but I'm going to do that. And then they take that brave step and then they're dealing with, by the way, there's always a cost. There's a cost of not making the changes. And then a cost of, you know what, you're going to have to figure out what else to eat after sugar pops for all
There's
those
always a light
years.
side and a dark side, as
Oh,
one
that's
of my
a good
best
way.
friend says. Yes.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much for bringing up the point of there is a grief process when we choose to make different choices in our lives.
Mm.
I love how compassionate that is. And I'm hearing from you when you see a patient making an empowering choice to fulfill themselves in a different way. I think that we can all relate to that as human beings because we all have coping mechanisms and they take different forms. And for some of us, it's eating a certain food. Others, maybe it's gambling, or for me, my eating disorders that I've had in the past. And you brought up body dysmorphia at the beginning. Eating disorders are just one more addiction. So we have so many addictions out there, and addictions are chemically based. And so when we break the addiction, then we are going to have withdrawal side effects from that. And so learning to have self-compassion moving into that process is really helpful. But then develop a team of support, develop family, friends, but also a professional network of people who can help you through it. And I think I've heard it said sugar is actually the most addictive substance there is. Have you heard that?
I've heard that. I just don't, not that I've tried heroin to know how much it would be. I just don't know. Look, there's a lot of buzz phrases in the natural health world. Here's one: everyone has parasites. I don't know that I buy that. That sugar is the most addictive substance. I don't know. This gets back to that when I hear such a flagrant statement, it is literally my first red flag. I'll say maybe. I'm not saying it's a fabulous health food. Go pour it on your cereal tonight, but I'm saying maybe, okay? It has very potent effects. It has, here's the other thing though. Most people will immediately know the changes they need to make in their nutrition most of the time. So here's my common way I'll start. They'll come in the door and I'll say, what are things that you feel like you already know you should be changing? And man, do they have a list. And most of the time it's pretty spot on. I would call that some more of the body wisdom. Like most people, you don't have to argue with them about sugar's problematic because you can feel it. My margarita example is just one of them, right? If you can get somebody to be paying that much attention, which we all have access to that. That's just, body wisdom is an available tool for all of us.
Right. Learning to listen to our intuition and learning to be quiet enough and create space to look into that can be really helpful. And
Which is also brave as hell
it is super brave.
to slow down.
It is super, because that's another distraction. You're consistently distracted
Mhm.
from looking inside and taking a deep breath and at each moment asking, what is it that my body actually wants? I think I want that cookie. Maybe I want a glass of water. Maybe I want a steak. Maybe I want a walk or a bath, or maybe you want the cookie. But just to take the time to
And then embrace it.
figure it out, and then take that cookie and enjoy every single bite of it.
Yeah.
Well,
If I may just chime in on something else that was coming up for me. One of the other hard things about GLP-1 discussions and peptides and weight loss is that, in my experience, it's typically one of the last changes in somebody's health improvements. Like, they'll be like, I want to lose weight. And I'm just like, oh, I feel for you. Let me frame this up. I'm very interested in your perspective. Oftentimes their joints are hurting less, their digestion's improving, they're clearer mentally, and then the weight's starting to come off because the body is feeling like it doesn't have to hold on to this in its wisdom. Maybe it's a stress state, back to these jobs and marriages. Again, just examples from a couple of my patients, but I'm interested to see what your perspective is on when weight loss occurs in a healthy process.
thank you for asking. This topic actually brings me to the whole idea of maybe the Atkins diet, or when people choose to completely get rid of carbohydrates, which is another big mistake, in my opinion, because it does neglect the earth element once again. Remembering that the earth element needs those sweet-natured foods, which come in the form of complex carbohydrates. And typically those patients, they feel amazing in the beginning, man. That they do not have pain, they have a lot of energy, they are losing weight, so they feel really happy and healthy. But at some point after the weight loss, then we start to see the ramifications of the metabolism slowing down. I see thyroid dysfunction. I don't know if you do. I notice thyroid dysfunction is related to adrenals and pituitary in that situation. And so, similar to the GLP-1s, my concern is that once we lose the weight, then it's hard to stop. I've heard, and I don't know because I have not worked with enough people yet, I've heard that once you do stop them, the weight just comes roaring back, which would make sense.
The GLP-1
The
medication.
GLP-1s, yeah.
And that, to chime in, that just to me feels like body wisdom. God, you've been starving me all this time.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to take care here. I need to, because what you're telling me, I'm pretending I'm somebody's body. You're telling me food is scarce. I'm barely going to be able to absorb it out of the food that I am eating. That I'm trying to hold on to everything, but I'm losing it. I'm losing it. I'm going to do everything I can to hold on to it now.
Back to the client, literally saw her today that I brought up, who I brought up earlier, who has the bravery and the courage to really take this head on. And she stopped her GLP-1 and she gained the weight, as I mentioned. She's already gained 8 pounds, she said. And I used the analogy of a pendulum with her for exactly the same language you just used. The body, and this is true of any way we starve the body of nutrition, whether it is through avoiding carbohydrates, whether it's through anorexia, whether it's through bulimia, whether it's through any kind of restriction or GLP-1s, the body goes into flight, fight, or freeze immediately. And because it knows it needs to survive. And so it will slow down the metabolism and go in. It's like it's starving, as you said. When you start to feed it, I really believe what you said is spot on. It's like every cell of the body says, oh, finally, I'm getting some nutrition. I'm having that. I don't know when I'm going to be starved again. I'm going to pack on the weight. And that's when the pendulum swings towards weight gain again. But what it takes, and I can speak to this from very personal experience, and actually now it's all coming back to me too. I met you in the height of one of my eating disorders. And it's just the matter of having faith that yes, my body's going to pack on weight as I'm actually eating and keeping the food in me. But what I learned was, and of course the whole time I'm thinking, okay, deal with my relationship issues, deal with my stress levels. Why am I an overachiever? Blah, blah, blah. And then what happened? My weight the pendulum did start swinging the other direction. And it's so freeing. And you know, what's interesting, even though I am where I am today professionally, and I'm speaking about this, I'm certainly not perfect either. I do not eat perfectly. I did not eat well today. I have not allowed enough time in my schedule to eat. Full disclosure, not perfect at all. But I am so much more free than I was, and it's so wonderful. And I think because I know how wonderful it is to live my life more free, not that they don't chime in sometimes, the temptations to go back to the eating disorder may always be there. I heard it's like that for any addiction. But just to know that I have energy, my body can count on me to eventually feed it, even though it's not, maybe should have fed it 2 hours ago now. But it knows it's going to happen. And so it's not going to freak out on me and hold that weight. And so it's a freeing thing. And I think you and I got into this profession because we love to see people thrive. We love to see people healthy.
Yes. I want to chime in with one thing you said I just thought was so lovely, that the faith required to make changes, to like, faith is essential in what might be considered our spiritual aspect. I really like that we're physical, mental, emotional, spiritual beings, and all of these are interconnected. And we've been talking about, as I was referring, issues in the tissues, but the faith piece, even bravery is a little too soft. Faith is like, when push comes to shove, are you going to do this thing, right?
That's right.
And it takes a connection to that. And boy, when somebody can tune into their own experience and their journey and say, I'm going to do this thing, that is amazing. And that's where all kinds of amazing things can happen.
I think that's a perfect ending to our podcast. I could not have said that better myself.
Aw.
And thank you so much for coming today. And we're going to have your contact information here. Would love for you focus primarily on men's health, but you also see women.
Yes, I do. Yep. It's that I'm trying to get more guys in there because I have so much to offer them. 23 years in, I'm just these fellas in their 50s who are just like, there's got to be another way, when they're ready to make some of these changes. Maybe even their wife's already interested in the medicine. Like, there's a certain fella that, just call me. I do complimentary initial consultations, and we can see if we'll be a good fit.
Well, thank you so much, and take care, and we'll stay in touch.
Thanks,
of course.
Dr. Schulte. Thanks for having me.